Hello, I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man, and I'm with Kyle Blackburn. Kyle is a solicitor in JMW's Restructuring and Insolvency department. Hello, Kyle.
Hi, Dominic. Thanks for having me.
So, Kyle, there's been some changes from October. Do you want to just give an idea of what's going to be happening, please?
Yeah, so just a quick background is that last March, the government introduced a number of measures to help businesses who were particularly vulnerable to going under off the back of the coronavirus restrictions. The two primary ones were that a creditor couldn't present a statutory demand for any winding up petition basis. And the second one was there was also a restriction on petitions if the debt had anything to do with the COVID restrictions. So a creditor had to essentially show that the debt was unconnected with COVID, which was quite difficult in many cases to do. So from October, the measures that were in place have been replaced with new temporary measures, which are in effect until the end of March 2022. These new measures, firstly, restore the ability to present a statutory demand. The second one, which is actually far more reaching, is a condition that before you can present a petition, the creditor has to be owed at least £10,000. They have to give a written notice to the debtor asking for proposals to pay the debt, and also have to then give the debtor 21 days. At the end of the 21-day period, if the debtor hasn't provided anything to the creditor, or if the proposals are unsatisfactory, then the creditor can present a winding up petition. So this is a very new regime in terms of the work that a creditor now has to do. Prior to March last year, a creditor in theory only had to be owed £750, and 3 weeks pass following a statutory demand being served, and they could present a winding up petition against the debtor company. The new regime is more stringent now, but in a sense, because they need to be owed £10,000 rather than £750, and they also have to, in a sense, work with the debtor to come forward with a proposal. Now, because this is such a new regime, we don't yet have any cases as to what would be considered to be satisfactory or a reasonable proposal. So I think that's still to be seen.
And you mentioned this 21 days and creditors and debtors working together. Realistically, what does it mean then for creditors and debtors?
So for creditors, it means that the door has been opened more so than it has been from March last year. The way the government and the way the rules have been structured is to try and avoid a complete collapse of the economy. So the measures are more favourable to small businesses that typically you would expect owe less than £10,000. So they are still very much protected until at least the end of March 2022. For a creditor, they're being asked essentially to, without just jumping straight into winding up proceedings against a company, to first consider whether the debtor can pay the debt back. Whereas previously a statutory demand, which can be quite a blunt instrument, that essentially just gave the debtor 3 weeks to come up with the money, otherwise they could be wound up. So that is a very different situation now, and it's moving in this shift towards trying to save some companies or give them a little bit of time to come up with a proposal in order to avoid the catastrophic potential consequences for that business.
And so what's your practical advice, Kyle, for organisations that are owed money, and also conversely organisations that are facing potentially an insolvency event?
I think the best advice is to seek advice. Whether you're a debtor or a creditor, you won't be surprised to hear me say that. Given that this is such a new position that we're in, I think as a creditor, the good news is you do have now options available to you to seek recovery of your debt. I should add that those options are only available to creditors that don't have any debt connected with tenancy agreement. So providing that you're not a landlord seeking to recover your debt that's owed, then you do have an option. On the other side, if you're a debtor, you should now be aware that creditors can take action against you. So you may need to engage more with them, whereas for the last year and a bit, many debtors were of the view that, well, I don't need to do anything because I'm protected. That's now changing. Obviously, the furlough scheme is coming to an end. So it's very much on the horizon that people will start to come knocking. And it's a case of, if you are a debtor company, seek advice from either an insolvency practitioner or an insolvency solicitor, or to see, well, what are my options?
Thank you for your insight, Kyle. And if you'd like to speak to Kyle, you can contact him insideman@jmw.co.uk or call 0161 82 81 999. I'm Dominic Walker, JMW's Inside Man.